Borrasca Part 5, Chapter 1. How long had I been asleep? And when had I realized that I wasn't anymore? I watched the ceiling fan circle slowly above me, doing nothing to dissipate the clouds of cigarette smoke that had drifted above my room for years. I started most mornings this way, but no. It wasn't morning, was it? I turned my head toward the bedroom window and confirmed the sky was dark outside. The last thing I recalled was being in the bathroom and then silence and sweet darkness. Seth. I sat up and chugged of an old bottle of water sitting on the floor next to the bed and then threw the empty bottle at my closet door. I lit a cigarette and took a long drag, releasing a cloud of smoke up into the apathetic fan. It floated idly above me. Putting on an old hoodie, I walked into the small living room on the apartment I shared with my roommate. Evening, Princess. Seth was reclined on the end of the couch, fingers flying across the keyboard of notebook, sitting on his lap. A confusing yet edgy indie movie played on the TV in front of him. This was pretty much Seth's life on any given day, and it perfectly summed up all of my interactions with him since I'd moved. Well, all of my sober interactions with him, anyway. I pulled down on my sleeves to subconsciously hide my arms, like it made any sort of difference. But, of course, it didn't. Seth already knew. He noticed what I was doing, and his smile fell into a sobering look. "Found you passed out in the bathroom again." "Sorry," I rasped, and reached for a half can of Mountain Dew that had been sitting on the counter for God only knows how long. You do realize how difficult it is for me to drag a 6'3" dude out of the bathtub and down the hall to his room. Next time, just leave me there, man. Hardly. You would have choked on your own vomit. I shrugged. I knew this was the death lurking in my future anyway, but heroin afforded me one convenience that I refused to part with: a dreamless sleep. I'd die before I surrendered that. Besides, if the nightmares came back, I'd probably just kill myself anyway. You had some visitors today while you were passed out. Dreddy stopped by. Oh, yeah? Yep, he left you more drugs. Said you could pay him when you had the money. You know, he must be the sweetest, most generous drug dealer in all of Chicago. Where is it? You were sleeping like a baby in the tub, so I just left it next to you, Seth said. Cool. In the toilet? Dude. Look, man, if you die, I don't get your half of the rent. And if I don't get your half of the rent, I have to get a real job. It's just business, not personal. Of course, that wasn't true. Seth and I had met at a darker time in both our lives, and shared the sort of bond that is only forged in such circumstances. Who was the other, I asked. The other what? The other visitor. A girl, actually. I told her you were out. Figured you'd prefer to tell her that over the truth. Did she say what she wanted? No. I swore that was never good. It was probably just some girl coming over to beg for free drugs, which I didn't currently have because Seth had flushed them down the toilet. And I would never let her touch my private stash. That had to be it. What the fuck else could she want? Great. So some chick either wants a hookup or is coming over to tell me she's pregnant, Seth scoffed. You wish this trick was way beyond anything you could ever get. Really? Because she did come asking around for me, didn't she? Sure, but I'm the one who got her number. No, you fucking didn't. I laughed as I walked into the kitchen and took one of the 3 glasses out of the cupboard. Oh, I did. Seth held up a torn shard of white paper. She gave it to me and asked me to call her when you came home. He used air quotes on the last 2 words. Yeah, well, don't. I don't want anything to do with... There was a knock at the door. I shot Seth a poisonous look. What? He threw up his hands and stood up. She's really hot, and you can't stand in the way of true love. Don't open it, I warned as he walked over to the door. Sorry, Sam, but you know I have a thing for redheads. Redheads? What? Do you know any redheads? I couldn't place one for the life of me. And then Seth opened the door to reveal Kimber Destero, standing on the other side. I suddenly felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped on my soul. I had a few seconds to study her before her eyes found me leaning against the counter of in the kitchen. She was still very short, but her hair was longer, halfway down her back it looked like. And she was, of course, almost 10 years older than the last time I'd seen her. Looking at her after all these years was physically crippling. I had to make a concentrated effort to stay on my feet while my knees tried to buckle underneath me. Just seeing her face brought back painful memories I thought long buried. She was like a mirage, long dead, returning to torture me. Kimber's eyes finally found me as she nervously clutched her cell phone in her hands, turning it over and over against her chest. "Hi, Sam," she said with more confidence than she clearly felt. Since Kimber had actually spoken to me, I could probably confirm that this wasn't a nightmare. She was really here. And if she was real, that meant it was all real too. A shudder racked through my body and I wound my white-knuckled fingers around the edge of the countertop. "Why are you here?" I hadn't meant to sound so angry. My words seemed to rattle Kimber and she took a step back. Seth watched the exchange with interest but didn't intervene. "You shouldn't be here, Kimber," I said. I just wanted her to leave. This needed to end before I lost it. After she was gone, I could pretend she was just a nightmare seeping through the vein. Kimber hesitated. I saw her calculating her mind as she watched me. Her lips moving on slightly as she organized all the variables in her head. It was such a Kimber thing to do, and it made me realize how much I missed her. I saw the exact moment Kimber found in her mind what she was looking for. "Did you get my letter?" she asked. "Yes." And I threw it away. Lies. She faltered for only a moment. "Did you read it?" I didn't say anything but I knew she could read the answer on my face. When neither of us spoke, an awkward tension began to bleed into the room. "So, I'm Seth," my roommate said, still casually leaning against the door. Kimber held my stare for a moment longer and then broke it to finally walk into the room. Seth let the door close behind her. "Kimber," she said to him, "and how do you know Sam?" "We grew up together." "Neat. Sam and I were cellmates in prison." "Seth!" I snapped. "I was in for a super sexy felony, computer crimes. Sam was in for, I swear to God, Seth," I warned, "harder stuff." "Good night, all," he said cheerfully and left the room. I kept my eyes on him as he made his way down the hall to his room, cursing his every step. When Seth's door had finally closed behind him, I reluctantly let my gaze drift back into the room. Kimber was watching me with an expression I couldn't read, but I didn't like it. "The letter," she repeated. "Yes, I read it." Kimber continued to stare at me, waiting for more, and she cracked me just that easily. I don't know what to say. I ran my hands through my mess of dark, unwashed hair. "I'm sorry that we didn't. Sam, stop. I'm not here for apologies. I don't need one. You guys got me out." "Kyle got you out." His name seemed to impale her. I wondered how long it had been since she'd heard it. "Well, that's kind of why I'm here. There are others, Sam. Women who never escaped that place. Yeah? I want to help them." "How?" "I want Drisking to be exposed. I want what they've done to be known to the world." "Yeah, so do I. So do a lot of people. But the majority of us aren't in a position to do anything about it." I needed a drink. I pulled a plastic bottle of cheap vodka from the freezer and poured it into a glass. "Do you want some?" I asked, almost as an afterthought. "God, yes," Kimber said, and I took another glass down from the cupboard, filled it, and handed it to her. She drank half of it in one sip, which seemed to steady her. "So, what do you want from me, Kimber?" I asked as she set the glass down. "I want you to come back to Drisking with me." I laughed, then tipped my glass back, allowing the hot sting of the alcohol to unfurl down my throat. "I'm serious, Sam." "Yeah, the answer is no. We'd never leave that place alive. We did once. We're not going back. I have a contact. You know, someone on the inside." "The inside of what? Drisking? Borrasca? The sheriff's office? They know stuff, okay? And they're willing to help us. That's all we need to know." "No, we'd need a lot more information than that. And you'll get it later, after we get there." "Did you really come all the way from California to ask me this after 9 years?" Actually, I wasn't asking. Kimber looked at me coolly and crossed her arms in front of her with ironclad conviction. This wasn't the Kimber I remembered. I didn't know this woman. So somebody told you that they were going to help you take down a very highly connected and protected crime syndicate, and you believe them? I didn't say that. So you don't trust them? I didn't say that either. Yeah, well, this isn't happening. We'd be dead the minute we cross the county line. Are you saying you won't go? Fuck no, I won't go, I said, pouring myself more vodka. All right, Kimber said, and set her glass on the table beside her. Well, thank you for the drink, but I have to go. Something lurched inside of me, but I couldn't let her leave. Not when I'd just gotten her back. Why was I being such a dick? Wait. I took a step forward toward her before I realized what I'd done. Where are you going? I told you, she snapped as she started toward the door. I'm going to Drisking. I was on her before she'd finished her sentence and yanked her away from the door. The hell you are! I told you I was going, Sam, and I fucking meant it. I didn't know you intended to go alone. That's goddamn suicide. I don't care. It needs to end. Why does it have to be you? I pled desperately. My heart began to sink as I realized I did know this Kimber. Her mind was made up and there would be no stopping her. Who else, Sam? Who else but us? There's no one. The thought of my best friend back at the place seared through my brain like a hot iron. I had to make Kimber see reason, even if I had to hurt her. There was no other way. So after what Killian Clary did to you there, after all you suffered at Borrasca, you want to go back? She snatched her arm back from my grasp. Yes, because there are other people still suffering, and we stand here arguing about this. We shouldn't have even waited this long to try and help them. No, wait, we can think this through. I'll try again with the FBI, the cops, Interpol, I don't know, whoever will listen. Did that work before? It hadn't. Sam, if I try to report what happened to me, I'll show up on their radar immediately and I'll be dead by morning. No more pretentious, no more manipulations. I had to bare my soul to this girl if I wanted to stop her. Please, I said desperately. Please, Kimber. I am begging you not to make me do this. I'm sorry, but I'm going. I was panicked, unable to control my breathing or the pound of my heart, which was racing to a finish line that lay somewhere in the immediate future. Fuck! I screamed and swept Kimber's vodka glass off the table to where it shattered against the wall. This didn't seem to surprise her, and Kimber kept her composure while I raged. Fuck! It was over. I was going back to Drisking. Chapter 2. I watched the vodka drip down the wall where I had hurled it. If I wasn't so terrified, I would have been embarrassed by my outburst, but I couldn't stop the shaking. Deep breaths, one problem at a time. I need to wipe off the wall, pick up the glass, and then I could go die in Missouri. I let out a pathetic sob. Sam, I won't let anything happen to you. I gave her a ludicrous look. How could such a tiny person stop anything from happening to me? Kimber had always been a little fireball, but this was madness. She raised her chin defiantly when she saw me assessing her. When are we leaving? I asked, trying to keep my voice as composed as possible. All I want to do was retreat in my room where I could let the fear overtake me. In the morning, she said. That's fucking crazy, Kimber. We need time to plan, and I need to contact the number for this source of yours. We can't just go waltzing into town after a decade. I've had a lot of time to prepare for this. Years, in fact. Look, tomorrow, let's just get in the car and go. And I'll have the 8-hour drive to convince you that I have a good plan. What the fuck is the rush, Kimber? You trying to be dead by Christmas? Just let me explain. I'll explain everything in the car tomorrow. You know, it's already midnight. Yeah, I know. I've been driving all day. I'm tired as hell, she sighed. You just got in today? Yes. From LA? Close enough. Jesus Christ, woman, do you have a hotel? Not yet, she shrugged. You can stay here then. With you talking so much crazy, I don't trust your lunacy out in the city. Kimber narrowed her eyes at me and then shrugged. Fine by me. Okay, you can take my room. Give me a minute. Shattered whiskey glass forgotten, I left Kimber standing where she was and went back to my room. I flipped the light on and glanced around. My heart plummeted. The room was disgusting. I hadn't really looked at it in years. It was really just a place to watch TV or pass out. I couldn't remember the last time I had changed the sheets or done any laundry. The girls who usually stayed over didn't care much what they were sleeping on, but this was no place for a girl like Kimber. I stripped the bed as fast as I could and herded bottles, discarded needles, empty cigarette boxes into the closet. I realized too late that I didn't actually have anything to replace the dirty sheets, so I was overwhelmed by the last 40 minutes that I felt tears start to well in my eyes. Get a hold of yourself, you pussy. I jumped in at sudden shock. At a sudden knock on the door, Seth stuck his head in. Here, he handed me a stack of clean, folded sheets on top of a blue quilt. I wanted to hug him, but I was still attempting to get my emotions under control. Thanks. Hey, so listen, he said slowly. Does this mean, is all that stuff about Drisking true? I had never told Seth, or anyone else besides the feds, anything about Drisking. What stuff? Oh, come on, man. I hear you talk in your sleep all the time. You say all sorts of fucked up shit. That's why I heard your friend's name before. You've talked about her in your sleep. What are you talking about? I said. I don't even dream when I sleep. Yeah, you do. I didn't say anything and Seth started to leave. Oh, one more thing. If you need anything while you're back home, just call me. Home? Fucking Drisking was home. Since I lived in a shitty neighborhood, I walked Kimber down to her car to get her bag out of the back seat. She dropped her duffel on the thankfully dark carpet of my freshly cleaned room, which was still barely passable. At the very least, I'd know she was here and safe. I'd always wondered if Cleary and Prescott were having me watched. If they were, Kimber was in danger by just being in Chicago. It probably was a good idea to leave in the morning. I settled down on the couch and pulled out my personal stash, which I'd pocketed while kicking garbage into my closet earlier. I needed it tonight, of all nights, and it was going to be one of my last. Then I would make it count. 30 minutes later, I floated down the familiar river of dark, dreamless sleep. Chapter 3. Just checking how long it is. This will be the last part. Alright, Chapter 3. I didn't remember dreaming, but I knew I had. I woke up feeling like I'd run 30 miles, drenched in sweat and fighting to draw in air with raw, ragged breaths. I sat up on the couch and rubbed my face. What time was it? Why was I in the living room? Why did I feel a malicious black cloud looming over me like some sort of comic strip character? And then it all came back, crashing like waves over my head. Holy shit. Kimber was here, and she wanted something. I felt the fear shower me like ice cold rain as I recalled pieces of the night before. We're going back. Kimber's bag was next to the door, and she was sitting at the table reading one of Seth's Look How Smart I Am philosophy books. As I sat up, I slid the evidence of my addiction under the couch with my foot, praying she hadn't really seen it. Morning, Sam, Kimber smiled without looking up from the book. Why in the fuck are you so chipper? You remember where we're going, right? Yes. She put the book down and looked over at me, beaming. I've just missed you so much. It was a genuine statement, and my mouth twitched into a little smile at her words. God damn it. I was happy to see her too. Buried underneath all the fear and numbing pain was a glowing euphoria. I had never been happier than when I was with Kimber and Kyle. And one of them had actually come back from the void of the past. I stood up. Just let me shower and pack, and then we can get on the road. That is, if you're still planning on going. Yes, I am, she said. Are you? Yeah, it appears that I am. I had run out of arguments. Seth had already left for the day, so I locked the apartment as we headed down to Kimber's car, a 10-year-old Mazda sedan. She took my bag and threw it into the back seat next to hers and then climbed in. So, 8 hours, huh? I asked as she started the engine. Yep, but I can only do it in 7. I can probably do it in 7. Fuck me, don't rush on my account. Whoa. Kimber pulled her sunglasses down and pulled out of the apartment complex. I looked back and wondered if I'd ever see its crumbling. Graffiti covered walls again. Or if I even wanted to. Stop staring at me. What? You're not as sly as you think you are, Kimber muttered. Sorry, it's just... I never thought I'd see you again. Neither did I, she sighed. You look pretty good. You look good. Pretty, you know, like healthy. I stumbled all over my compliment. Kimber raised her eyebrow. Thanks, I think. I laughed nervously. You know what I mean. You look like you've done well for yourself the last 10 years. Kimber frowned and remained quiet for a minute as if debating whether to tell me something. I never told anyone where I came from, she said finally. My mom said she had family in Anaheim, but I couldn't find them. Everyone thought I was just a runaway. Cops picked me up almost immediately and put me in a halfway house. Sorry about your car, by the way. They impounded it. I don't suppose you ever got it back? I shrugged. No, but who cares? It was just an old Honda. Kimber threw me a sympathetic look. I'm sorry. Anyway, the halfway house kept trying to identify me, so I ran away from there too. Eventually, I got a job. Southern California is a great place to live if you don't have an ID, by the way. I'm sure, I said. After that, I went to community college, and yeah, I've just been sort of biding my time. Are you sure you want to just throw all of that away to expose your rapist? Kimber winced at my words, and I immediately regretted them. No, I want him dead. And throw all what away? I've been planning on this for an entire decade. Well, you've still done better than me. My life's a mess. Were you really in prison? Kimber asked. Yeah. She didn't say anything. Felony possession, I volunteered. Kimber nodded. And you're still... I knew what she was thinking. Yes, I said. So what's your plan? Well, first we're going to rent a room just outside of town. Remember the one motel off of exit 113? Prince Ridge Inn or something? Outside of town? I like it. And then I'm going to meet my contact sometime tomorrow. Right. And then we just go from there. Go from there? Yep. Kimber nodded but wouldn't look at me. Please don't tell me this is your plan. Our contact will give us more direction. Your contact. Yeah. Do I know this guy? I asked. I didn't say it was a guy, and it doesn't matter. Oh, why wouldn't it matter? Because this person has told me stuff that can only mean they are on our side. Yeah? Like what? I asked. Like the sheriff's schedule. My dad. Yeah, he's still sheriff in Drisking. I hadn't doubted that. What else? I asked. Okay. Well, they also told me that they know where all the records are. What records? You know, all the data for the Borrasca operation, the incriminating stuff. Alright. And, well, they told me things about Kyle. Yeah, I can tell you things about Kyle too. Sam, Kyle's gone. No, he isn't. No? Actually, yeah, because I saw him with my own open eyes before I left town. I talked to him too. He's empty, Kimber. There's no one there. You're wrong. He's a total vegetable. You're wrong. That's wrong. My source told me he's just sedated. Sedated? Sedated for 9 years, Kimber? Yes, she said with false conviction. So your source is just telling you things you want to hear. I believe it's true. Kimber, I saw what they did to Kyle. They straight up beat the death into him. The only part of Kyle left on this earth is his mangled body. Stop, Sam. I'm sorry. I can't go through this again. Not with Kyle. I've already mourned him, and you should too. We need to know for sure. Hold up. Wait, so this little trip isn't actually about getting the records or killing the asshole who hurt you or helping those people. This is some sort of ill-conceived rescue mission, isn't it? Partially. So that's your rush then. You got some bad info that Kyle is alive and you're running off half-cocked to get him. No. Why don't we just go straight to his house and pick him up then, huh? We can be back on the road by dawn. I don't know where he is. The Landys moved him. Then what are we doing? If I'm going to die for this, Kimber, I deserve to know why. She jerked the wheel to the side of the highway and slammed on her brakes. Fuck, Kimber, I yelled. My head cracked against the window and I was still seeing stars when I realized that Kimber was out of the car. I rubbed my head until the throbbing stopped and then followed her back where she was standing over the open trunk. Inside were dozens of guns, at least 30 of them. There were rifles, handguns, a shotgun, and boxes upon boxes of ammo. Are you planning to storm the Alamo? Does this look like Kyle is all I'm after? I'm actually a little scared of you right now. I want all of this to end. I want Kyle back, yes. And it's true that that's why I showed up so suddenly. But I want more than that, Sam. I want him dead. I understood her hatred for Cleary, but if we're going to murder people, I wanted Jimmy Prescott dead as well. And when the time came, and if I was certain he was culpable, my father too. How did you get all these? Kimber shrugged. It's taken me a few years, lots of traveling around the Southwest to gun shows and stuff. Okay, well, close the trunk before somebody driving by sees your fucking arsenal. This is Illinois, for fuck's sake. She slammed it shut and we got back into the car, where I sat rubbing my head, lamenting at the bump that was already forming there, when I realized Kimber hadn't started the car. I looked up to find her gripping the steering wheel tightly and staring straight out the windshield. She was fighting back tears. Kimber, I'm sorry, I said. She blinked a few more times to clear her eyes. I'm being a total asshole. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I did know. My mind was cloudy from years of drug use. I had no filter, and I had problems controlling my emotions, which swung back and forth like the pendulum on a clock, and changed just as often. No, I never should have asked you to come. It was wrong. She breathed the last word and dropped her hands from the steering wheel. Asked? I said. She covered her face. You're right. I manipulated you. You don't even know me anymore. You shouldn't be here. I leaned over to the center console and hugged her. Kimber recoiled at my touch like I'd delivered her an electric shock. I'm sorry. Shit, I'm sorry, I said. No, it's okay. I don't like to be touched. This was new Kimber. I pulled out my pack of Marlboros and lit a cigarette without even asking if it's okay. Fuck, Kimber. I'm a piece of shit. I've always been a piece of shit. I probably should be here, honestly. You've given the opportunity to do something with my life. But I'm fucking scared, and it's making me a dick. Kimber leaned back and wiped her eyes. You really don't have that much to worry about, Sam. You're still the son of the sheriff, and he won't hurt you. I had considered this too, and it made my skin crawl. Son of the sheriff. If what I suspected was true, then that would make me heir to Borrasca. My stomach lurched in revulsion. Maybe. Let's just get to the hotel and we'll decide what to do. We probably want to make as little noise as possible while we figure out where Cleary and Prescott are. We don't want anybody to know we're back in town. Timber nodded. And the sheriff. And the sheriff. I didn't want to think about it. I had buried the assumptions about my father's guilt years ago. Under enough black tar heroin to kill a horse. I guess it was time to remember. Well, that concludes chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Borrasca Part 5. Thank you so much for watching, YouTubers. If you like the video, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like the video, little bell notification thing. We'll see you in the next one. We'll continue on with chapter 4, probably tomorrow evening. Yeah, tomorrow evening. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Be good when you can, or be good at it, YouTube.